Okay, so there are actually different types of model, no? But one that is of particular interest to IOPER 1 is number 3, no? The symbolic model. So you already know what a physical model is, no? It's really a scale model. By the way, a model is an abstraction of reality, no? So you're trying to uh, mimic reality through different means. So a physical model is an actual physical representation. No? So if you see a scale model of a condo building that you're staying in, then that's a physical model. An analog model, on the other hand, um, abstracts nature by representing one element using another element. Also, if you try to represent the sales of a company using bar charts, then that's an analog model. Now, for symbolic model, it can either be verbal or mathematical. Okay, so verbal is of course a collection of statements that describe a real situation. Um, like if news reporters would write something about a fire incident, then that's a verbal symbolic model. But the other type is using symbols, no, which is mathematical models. So what we're interested in is the mathematical symbolic model. And there are two types of mathematical model. Okay, number one, we have deterministic, and number two, we have stochastic. Okay, so for deterministic mathematical models, it simply means that these models do not involve probabilities or uncertainties. Okay, walang risk. Okay, so everything is certain to happen. So the parameters that you will use later on are all certain. Now, I'll discuss more about parameters later. Whereas stochastic mathematical models, they involve probability, they involve risk, okay, in decision making. So, of course, between the two, stochastic mathematical models are more realistic. Kasi whenever we make decisions, risk will always be involved. Okay? So, therefore, there will always be probabilities of occurrence or probabilities of non-occurrence of a certain event. And that's why stochastic models are, more realistic. But we start our journey in operations research with deterministic mathematical models. So we get used to mathematical model formulation first without incorporating probabilities or uncertainties in IE Oper 1. Okay, and then we move to stochastic models predominantly in IE Oper 3. Okay, so I'm just giving you a background on what to expect for IE Opera series. Okay, so for IE Opera 1, our focus would be here. Okay. Okay. Our focus will be on deterministic mathematical models. So let me proceed. So the whole term, we will be discussing about what we call linear programming, or more commonly known as LP. Okay, so if you hear LP, that means linear programming. So what is linear programming? Just a review of what we had last meeting. We defined operations research as an analytical method of problem solving and decision making. Okay, so under operations research, as I've said, are many tools. Okay, and one of which is linear programming. Okay, so linear programming is a deterministic mathematical model, mathematical modeling technique, which is designed to assist an organization in allocating scarce resources. Remember what I said last meeting, that operations research is really beneficial usually in conditions that require the allocation of scarce resources. So LP is one of those tools that can help us or help organizations allocate scarce resources, or if you have many decision alternatives, then LP is a very effective tool in choosing from among many alternatives. Okay, now the technique for linear programming is to translate reality into a set of mathematical expressions, which will constitute your mathematical model. Okay, so breaking down linear programming, the reason why it's called linear is because the mathematical functions that you will develop, no, the relationships between variables are all linear. Okay? Linear in nature. Hindi siya parabolic, hindi siya quadratic, hindi siya cubic, hindi siya exponential. All the expressions or mathematical functions that will be used in the formulation of the model are linear. Okay? So linear lang ang expressions lahat, and that simplifies the solution later on. Now, programming is not the common programming that you know, no, yung computer programming. Hindi siya ganon. Programming here is used to denote planning. Okay? Planning, or being able to see all the alternatives available and being able to select the best solution to a problem. Okay? So when you put linear programming together, you use a set of linear mathematical functions or expressions in order to be able to represent reality, okay, or represent a set of alternative actions that you will choose from. Okay? So that's linear programming. And then, of course, formulation, when you hear the word formulation, it simply means the process of developing the mathematical model. Let's move to the next slide. Okay, so elements of linear programming problem. First, the most important is the decision variable. You cannot begin your formulation process without identifying the decision variables for your decision problem. Kasi always remember, this tool is used for problem solving and decision making. Okay? And we are using mathematical expressions in order to do that. So therefore, since there is a problem to be solved, then it means that there is a decision to be made. Okay? So usually when you're faced with a problem, okay, the next thing is for you to resolve this problem by making a decision. So they go hand in hand. Okay, so for you to be able to resolve the problem, you need to define the variables where you need to make a decision on. You understand? And when we say decision variable, it means that these are the variables that are under your control to make. Yung values niyan are under your control. So example, okay, can you give me a decision, example of a decision that you can make?
What to eat for breakfast?
Okay, what to eat for breakfast, or to concretize that decision, we can say, we'll define it mathematically. Let x be, okay, kasi when we talk about decision variable, we're talking about the values, no, the values for these variables, no, that are under our control. So decision is what type of food, no? What type of food ba, sabi mo?
Yes, sir. Yun po sabi niya. What type of food sa breakfast?
Okay? So type of food is a decision that you will make, di ba? Pero ano ang mga possible values, quote unquote, values for this one? When you say type of food, ano ba ang iba-ibang types of food na available? Kasi remember, di ba, kanina sabi natin, linear programming is a tool for you to select from many alternatives. Di ba? So therefore, you have a decision to make if there are many alternatives available to you. If there is only one alternative, kunyari isa lang yung food available for breakfast, then there's no decision to make. Or at the most, the decision is whether to eat it or not. Correct? So always remember, decision variables are defined because you have to make a decision as to what alternative to take. Okay? Wala kang decision na gagawin if there are no alternative actions. Okay? So therefore, how do we translate this to a decision? So I'll give you an example, no? An example of a decision variable is something like this. No? We let x sub I, okay, this is a subscript, no? Okay? So this is a subscript representing the alternatives for a decision point. So for example, let xi be the amount. Since this is mathematical, then we have to express our variables in such a way that it becomes numerical. Okay? So it is the amount of so an example of a decision variable is to decide how much food to eat. That way, you're able to express it mathematically, di ba? Kasi you can now decide ilang servings of rice, for example, or ilang servings of French fries, or ilang servings of egg. You get me? So now the subscript I would pertain now to your different alternatives. Yung tinatanong ko kanina, how many types of food do you have? So sabi natin kanina, no, the decision, okay, X, the decision you make is the type of food to eat. Pero we have to be very specific. How many types of food do we have? Okay, so we can now define I as egg. Okay, if that is a type of food, no? Let's say, ano pa ba? Hot dog, etc. And we convert it to a numerical, no? Ilang servings of egg, ilang servings of hot dog, etc. Another example, consider a company. Okay? So given this scenario, a company produces 3 products. These 3 products use the same machine. Okay? What decision can you make that is under your control if you are the manager?
Sir, how many of the products will the
Okay.
machine make?
Okay, how many of the, remember there's only one machine. So it means that I cannot produce two products or three products at the same time because they're all gonna have to use or pass through that machine. So therefore, I now have to decide first how many products of how many units of each product I should be producing. That's the decision that you have to make. And it's entirely within your control. If I want to make a decision to produce more of product one as compared to product two and three, that's your decision to make. But of course, that decision will be restricted by certain constraints later on. So a decision variable here could be let xi be the number of units. Again, the focus is on translating the variables into numerical, no, into a numerical value. Okay, so the number of units of product I to produce. When you say to produce, it means that it will pass through that machine for you to be able to produce it. Okay, and you define your I. I is equal to product 1, product 2, and product 3. Okay, so your subscript becomes your alternatives. Diba? When you make a decision, you have different alternatives. What to produce? Okay, so that is the decision to make. The first decision to make is what to produce. Okay, and you have alternatives 1, 2, and 3, product 1, 2, and 3. But then the decision variable is something numerical. How much of each product do you want to produce? And that is entirely within your control. Okay, so in your case, for example, so far, is this clear? Is this definition of decision variable clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In your case, for example, how many subjects are you taking this term?
8.
8. Okay. Some of you 8, some of you 6, some of you 7. Okay. Now, every day, starting next week siguro, no? Every day, you'll have assignments. Correct? You'll have assignments. You may have quizzes, you may have assignments. You have different requirements from these different products. What decision as a student, what decision do you think you have to make in order to achieve your goals for this term?
Sir, how much time to allocate per subject?
Yes, Emilio, that's a good answer. How much time to allocate per subject? Is that decision within your control?
Yes, sir.
It is, right? How much time you put into a subject? If I don't want to study this subject because I know it already, then you decide to allocate 0 hours for that. But if this subject is difficult and has a lot of requirements, you will allot more in a day. So therefore, another example is you let xi again be, so the decision here is again numerical, no? The number of hours to allocate to subject I. So yung alternatives mo ngayon dito is anong subject, di ba? So again, I'm emphasizing on the alternative courses of action kasi kailangan yon for you to define your decision variable. Okay, so the number of hours to allocate to subject I in a day. Okay, so I always define your subscript. This represents your alternatives. So I, if you have 8 subjects, then I would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 because you have 8 subjects. So you will now have how many variables? How many decision variables? Isa lang yung nakikita nyo, di ba? Xi. Pero this is actually how many variables?
1,
8 variables, sir.
8 variables? Yes, that's correct. Kasi x1 is a variable. Okay? x2 is a different variable from x1. Correct? x3 is again a different variable from x1 and x2. So if I define this, I can define it as number of R's to allocate subject 1. Whereas x2 is the number of R's to allocate to subject 2, and that's different. Diba? And so on, no? x3 is the number of R's to allocate to subject 3. And this goes on all the way up to x8. So you have a total of 8 variables, the definition of which are all the same, except that they are number of hours allocated to different subjects. You get it? Okay, so now the traditional way that you know in defining variables in your algebra before in your worded problems is let x be this. If there's another variable, let y be this. If there's another variable, let z be this. Tama? X, Y, Z. Kung kulang pa, let W. Ubusin niyo yung letters ng alphabet. Tama? If you have 26 different subjects, then it's let A, B, C, up to Z be equal to so-and-so. So instead of using so many variables, imagine no, if you have a problem with a lot of alternatives, you have to write them down one by one, 8 times. Eh pare-pareho lang naman sila. So what we're teaching here is the subscript method of defining a variable. Okay, such that you define all 8 variables here by using a single letter. And you differentiate the meaning of the different variables using the subscript. Okay, so please try to understand this. The subscript is just a separator of the different variables. Instead of using different letters, you're using the subscript to represent the different letters. Okay, so I can be x sub A, x sub B, x sub C. They represent different variables. Okay, but the only thing here is that you define the variable only once, okay, by using x sub I, number of R's to allocate to subject I, but you have to define what the subscript is. So you just say I is equal to 1 to 8. It's understood already that that's 8 different decision variables. Okay, now the next question is it possible to have xij as a variable? Yung double subscript naman. Okay, double subscript. So as I've said, this represents an alternative. The subscript represents an alternative. So if I have a double subscript, it means that you have 2 decision points. Okay, you have 2 decision points, and each decision point presents you with several alternatives. Okay, each decision point presents you with several alternatives. So example, let me expand this. I can define this as, okay, before I define this, the assumption here is that the number of hours to allocate to subject I in a day. Okay, how many days do you have in a week? Simple question.
7.
No trick involved. Okay, 7. Diba? 7 days in a week. Now, the assumption when you define xi is the number of hours to allocate to subject I in a day. Remember that at the end of this problem solving and decision making process, you expect a value for each of these variables. Example, lumabas. Dali, aburahin ko muna to. For example, lumabas x1 is equal to 1. Let's say, example lang, x2 is equal to 0.5, x3 is equal to 0, x4 is equal to 2, x5 is equal to 30, x6 is equal to 1.5, x7 is equal to 0, x8 is equal to 2.5. Okay. That is what you will expect in the end, no, of this process. Kailangan makapag-assign ka ng value para makapag-decide ka. Remember, this is a decision variable. So the model, after solving the model, it should help you, or it should tell you, okay, what decision to make. Correct? So example, you define the variable number of hours to allocate to subject 1. And after solving the model later on, no, after solving the model, x1 comes out to be equal to 1. What does that mean? What does x1 equal to 1 mean to you?
It's,
Sige.
Kulang
Sir,
Emilia, sorry.
sige. Sir, for subject 1, you spend 1 hour to allocate. You spend 1 hour to allocate the subject 1.
In other words, the model is now telling you, after solving it, the model is now telling you, okay, if this is your problem, because you don't know how many hours to allocate for your subject in order to achieve your goal, then I'll help you solve it, okay? And this is my solution, sabi ng model, no? You allocate 1 hour to subject 1. That's the decision, di ba? Ang decision variable definition mo, tingnan natin ulit. Okay, it's the number of hours to allocate to a subject in a day. So you're now saying that you are going to allocate 1 hour in a day to subject 1. Ibig sabihin, if I ask you, how many hours are you going to allocate to subject 1 on Monday? Your answer is 1, correct? How many hours are you going to allocate to subject 1 on Tuesday? Your answer is still 1, correct?
Yes po.
Kasi that's the number of hours you will allocate in a day. On Wednesday, it's still 1. Tama? Okay, it's always 1. But in reality, you can actually change the selection of these alternatives, correct, from one day to another day. In other words, I can allocate 1 hour to subject 1 on Monday. Pero I can shift that and allocate 2 hours to the same subject 1 on Tuesday. Can I do that? Is that within your control?
Yes, sir.
It is, di ba? Kasi it
Yes.
depends on the requirements from day to day. Correct? Pwedeng walang requirement ngayon si subject 3. Walang requirement. Kaya, 0 yung inallocate mo na hours sa today. Pero tomorrow, biglang ang haba ng assignment. So, should it still be 0?
No, sir.
You have to allocate, di ba? And therefore, that leads us, tuloy ko na, that leads us to Xij. Kasi Xij will now be defined as the number of hours to allocate. Dalawa na decision point mo ngayon. Dalawang set of alternatives na. The different types of subjects, the number of hours to allocate to subject I. Okay. Subject I being 1 to 8, no? There are 8 different subjects. So those are your alternatives, no? For in terms of yung decision point na anong subject ang bibigyan mo ng oras. Di ba? Pero this time, you have an additional decision point to make. Yung oras na ibibigay mo sa subject, okay, sa anong araw, what day, is also important. Okay? So I can now say number of hours to allocate to subject I on day J. Okay? Such that I can now define it as I equals 1, 2, 3, up to 8 because there are 8 subjects. Okay? And then my J can be 1, 2, 3, up to 7 because there are 7 days in a week, assuming that you're willing to allocate hours to study every day. Diba? Again, this is within your control. You can make it 6 if you decide 6 days a week ka lang mag-aaral. 1 day is really rest day. So you can make it 6. That's within your control. But the point here is this. You now have 2 decision points. One is you have to decide to which type of subject you will allocate your hours to, and on what days you will allocate these hours to these types of subjects. There are 2 decision points now that you make, and each decision point has its own set of alternatives. Okay, such that if I put x11, okay, and I define it, that means that it is the number of hours to allocate to subject I on day J. The subject one on day 1 of the week. Okay, and x 1, 2 will now be different. It is the number of hours to allocate to subject 1, okay, I and J yan, on day 2, meaning sa Tuesday. So the same subject, pero different days. Correct? And then another one is x2, 3, for example. This means the number of hours to allocate to subject 2, but this time on day 3. Magkaibang variable uli yan. Tama? So, this goes on and on, no? You can define so many variables. How many variables do you have in all? If I ask you, kanina, balik tayo dito, simple, 8 variables, isang subscript lang. Ngayon, how many variables do you have?
56, sir.
56. x11 up to x17, x21 up to x27, up to x8 up to 7. So the last one will be x87, meaning the number of hours to allocate to subject 8 on day 7. You get it?
Yes, sir.
So again, that means that it is also possible for us to have x, I, j, k. Okay. Now, the whole point of this subscript method using I as a subscript or j and k is to shorten the definition of the variable. Imagine if you have to write 56 definitions of variables like this. No? Sabi natin 56 lahat yan. Okay. So let me write it here for the sake of the other class. Now, 56 variables. Okay. If you have to define 56 variables separately using A, B, C, D, E, ubos na yung letters ng alphabet, ang dami mo pang isusulat. Diba? But using the subscripting method, all you have to do is define xij, define it, and make this variable, these are your alternatives, and then just specify the values of your alternatives here. Okay, I equals 1 to 8, j equals 1 to 7. So 56 variables defined by just this one. In quiz 1, okay, sa Canvas quiz nyo, if we ask you to define the decision variable for the problem, okay, for the problem, this is what we expect to see. Okay, this one. Now, going back, if you understood xi, xij, we will apply that later on, no, sa actual problems. So always remember, I will give you a problem, okay? In that problem, you have to look for what decisions you can make. These are the controllable aspects of the problem, okay? Define your decision variables, and then we will proceed with objective function in a short while, okay? So now, notice this one. If you see in your solution that x5 is equal to 30, if you run it in your Excel solver, as I discussed last meeting on your solver, it will tell you that the problem has no feasible solution. Okay? Because of this. Why? Is this possible? Can x5 be equal to 30? Anyone?
No, sir.
Why can't it be 30?
Because there are only 24 hours in a day.
Because there's only 24 hours, assuming you will not sleep and do anything else. Okay, you will not sleep, you will not eat, you will not do anything else. Okay, so therefore, this is not possible. Okay, not possible. Because later on, we will go here, we will go to constraints and say that there are limitations on the values that are possible. Okay, so for this particular decision variable, the limitation that we can see, the constraint that we can see is that it cannot exceed 24, correct? Any of these variables from x1 to x8 cannot exceed 24, correct? That's the maximum possible. And the minimum possible is called the non-negativity constraint, which means that, so let me write it down, no? Here. If you will formulate the model, you have to say x1, xi pala, xi is greater than or equal to 0. So from your Indomat, what is the symbol?
For every I, sir.
For every I. Okay, Roswell, thank you. For every I. It means that this equation, xi is greater than or equal to 0, should be repeated for every possible value of I. So meaning x1 should be greater than or equal to 0, meaning you can only allot a minimum of 0 hours, cannot be negative. So oftentimes we call this the non-negativity constraint. Okay, so for all decision variables, we will always have the non-negativity constraint, which serves as the lower bound of the possible values of these variables. It is the lower bound, cannot go lower than that. So for all I simply means that x1 should be greater than or equal to 0, x2 should be greater than or equal to 0, x3 should be greater than or equal to 0, and so on. So therefore, you are now able to write one constraint, okay, to represent, okay, this one actually represents how many constraints? Ilang equations yan or ilang inequalities yan?
Eight, sir.
John, David? How many inequalities yan?
Sir, eight po.
This is just one row, pero it represents 8 different unique inequalities. x1 up to x8 greater than or equal to 0. Is that clear? So by just using this symbol for every or for all I. And the other constraint or limitation for the values of your variable is xi what's the maximum? What's the upper bound for every variable? Kanina, it was mentioned already. What is the upper bound?
24.
24. So if it is an upper bound, then that's a maximum value So you now formulate it as less than or equal to 24 for all I. That's another set of 8 inequalities or 8 constraints as we call it. So focusing your attention on the left side of your screen, yung number 3, constraints, is defined as mathematical expression for the limitations on the decision variables or on the possible values of the decision variables. We are free. We have the control over what decisions to make, but the values are limited by the capacity of our resources. In this case, in a day, you only have a capacity of 24 hours to allocate. And therefore, the values of these variables are limited to 24 hours lang. Okay? In the case of this example, production, when we define the number of units of product I to produce, and there are 3 products, okay? And let me add, per day, okay? Let's say you're making a decision on a daily basis, no? Per day. If you have 1 subscript, it means that you are going to make the same decision every day, right? The same decision every day, and the value of your decision is the same every day kasi hindi mo sinubscript yung day. Kapag sinubscript mo yung day dito, the number of units of product to produce on day J, just like our previous example, then it means that you are allowing the value of your product 1, 2, and 3, okay, the number of units to produce for product 1, 2, and 3 to vary from day to day. Okay, if you want it to vary from day to day, then you have to put on day J. Is that clear? But if you want it to be constant every day, yung decision mo to produce, you want it to be constant every day, then you don't need to put day J. You just say per day. Okay, now for this decision, what do you think will constrain or will limit the possible values of number of units to produce for product 1 and 2 and 3? What do you think will limit the values? Kasi sa ngayon, pagka decision variable lang, the sky is the limit. I can say I can produce 0, I cannot produce negative, definitely. Diba? So the lower bound is always 0. That's the non-negativity constraint. Okay, so let me put this, no? This one is called the non-negativity constraint, which is present in all LP models. Okay, now if I do not have any limitations in resources or capacity of resources, then I can say that I can produce 1 million units of product 1 or even infinite units of product 1, correct? There's no bound. There's no limit. But in reality, what do you think will limit my decision as to how many units of product 1, 2, and 3 to produce? Will it be sky is the limit, or will there be an upper bound?
There will be an upper bound po.
Okay, there will be an upper bound. Okay, the limit or the limitations will now be expressed as a constraint. Okay, in other words, you only have 1 machine. Tapos mag-share yung 3 product sa isang araw dyan sa machine na yan. So that machine can only run, let's say, you're operating on 2 shifts, 2 8-hour shifts. Alam niyo na yung shifting, di ba, from your Pro MGT. Okay? Wala pa pala. You're taking Pro MGT 1 right now, no? Okay, so
Last
shifting.
term, sir.
Last term. So meron na kayong Pro MGT 1. So alam niyo na yung mga work shifts, di ba? You know the work shifts. So let's say 2 8-hour shifts. It means that the machine will only run for a maximum of 16 hours in a day. Correct? 16 hours in a day. So let's say, let's put it here. Let's say 1 unit of product 1 requires 2 hours of machine time. Are you now free to produce infinite number of units of product 1 in a day?
No, sir.
Will this now set a limitation or a limit to the possible values of your product 1 production? Okay, so if 1 unit of product 1 requires 2 hours of machine time, then it means that if I do not produce product 2 and product 3 in a day, and I will only produce product 1, the maximum that I can produce is 8. Kasi there are only 16 hours of machine time available. Correct? That's only 8. Right?
Yes,
But
sir.
the decision I will make is a combination. I can decide to produce 1, 2, or 3 in a day. 1, 2, and 3 in a day. Okay, I can produce all products in a day. And again, formulation of LP models involves a lot of assumptions. No? Remember, if I shift from producing one product to another product, I would have to reset the machine. There is what we call setup time that is lost. So the 16 hours that you have for the machine time will not actually be 16 hours if you shift from one product to another. Okay, you have to deduct the setup time. But if the problem does not give you the setup time from one product to another, then you just assume that setup time is negligible, is 0. So therefore, you still have 16 hours if it's not given. But if the setup time is given, then you deduct it from the total available time. Is that clear, class? You have to be
Yes,
very
sir.
particular about these things, no? So now, if I were to formulate an equation, if I were to formulate an equation for this problem, a constraint for this problem, how will I make the formulation? The definition is x1, x2, x3, no, for number of units to produce. Okay, how will I formulate this inequality to represent this constraint? Anyone? Okay, what is x1 again?
Yung product, yung how many units for product 1?
How many units that you will produce, diba? That's a decision that you will make. Let's say you decide to produce, okay, 1 unit. How many hours of machine time will be used up?
1 hour lang po. Sorry, 2 hours pala, sorry.
2 hours,
2
diba?
hours.
So if I produce 1 unit, it would be 2 hours. If I produce 2 units, how many hours?
4 na.
4.
4. So therefore, the expression for the number of hours of machine time used by product 1 is what? Number of hours, total number of hours used up by product 1 in the machine.
2 per product.
2 per product times,
So 2x1 po.
tama? 2 times x1, correct?
Yes.
2 times x1. So therefore, this represents the number of hours of machine time used up in producing product 1. So again, x1 is a variable. So you can plug in any value there and you can compute the total number of hours of machine time used up in producing product 1. Correct? So if the model helps you decide that to produce 5 units of product 1, then this expression tells you 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, so therefore, that's the number of hours of machine time that is used up. Correct? So I will fast forward to some assumptions in linear programming. First assumption is proportionality. Okay, first assumption is proportionality. It simply says that the usage of each resource, and in this problem, in this example, our resource is the machine. That's our resource. The usage of the machine or the resource and the associated contribution to the measure Z is directly proportional to the value of each decision variable. So x1 represents the value of that decision variable, whatever it is. So sabi ng proportionality, assumption of proportionality is that the usage of the resource is dependent or is proportional to the value of your decision variable. So if x1 is 1, the usage is 2. If x1 is 2, the total usage is 4. If x1 is 3, the total usage is 6, and so on. That's the proportionality assumption. Again, why is it an assumption? In reality, the total is not always proportional. Okay, in reality, the total is not always proportional. Okay, like for example, if you're doing your assignment, okay, if you're doing your assignment, and it's a repetitive assignment, for example, diba? The first problem that you solve, it would take you 30 minutes to figure out the given, what the problem is, how to solve it. It will take you 30 minutes. Under the proportionality assumption, each problem you solve is 30 minutes. Therefore, if I give you 5 problems, that would take you a total of 5 times 30. Tama? Since every problem is 30 minutes, then 5 problems, it will take 5 times 30 minutes to solve it. So that's 150 minutes. Okay? That's linear programming assumption. Pero in reality, there is what we call, and you have learned this in ProMGT1, there is what we call a learning curve. Did you learn it? It's a learning curve. So if the problem is repetitive, or if the process in the production is repetitive, then you learn it as time passes by, and therefore you become more efficient or you become faster as you solve more of the same problem. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, if I assign you 10 problems, pwedeng sa first problem mo, while you're learning it, you're taking 30 minutes. Pero on the third time that you solve it repetitively, a different problem but similar, alam mo na gagawin mo eh. So therefore, it takes you 20 minutes na lang. Nakuha nyo? And then, by the time you get to the 10th problem, and that's the purpose of practicing, by the time you get to the 10th problem, siguro 5 minutes na lang. Kasi alam mo na gagawin eh. Ang bilis na. Diba? Who among you here did Kumon when you were in your grade school days or high school days? Have you heard about Kumon? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Kumon, di ba? So Kumon advocates practice to increase speed. Di ba? Yung accuracy is a different thing, no? Kung tama yung sagot mo, mali. Pero speed in the process ang talagang tinuturo sa Kumon by giving you a lot of worksheets. And that's the purpose, no? The proportionality assumption is normally violated in reality because of the learning curve. But since we are given a textbook problem, there is no way by which we can actually model the learning curve unless it's explicitly given in the problem. So if it's not, then you just assume na proportional siya, and hence you have the proportionality assumption. Okay, next. This is the total hours used up by machine 1. However, the machine is used by 3 products. So I need to model also the number of hours of machine time used up by product 2. So how would I model that? What would be the relationship between the parameter for product 2, 1 hour of machine time, di ba? What will be the relationship between this and the variable?
1x2 po. So,
Okay, 1 times x2.
X.
Okay? Same definition, di ba? Same definition. Is the number of hours of machine time used up in producing product 2. And similarly, you have number of hours of machine time used up in producing product 3. And what is that?
4x3 po.
Okay, 4 times x3. Meaning, if I decide to produce 1 unit of product 3, 4 times 1 means 4 hours ang makukonsume mo sa machine 3. So, let me define this similarly. If I add this up, what do I have?
Equal to 16
What is the
hours
meaning
po.
of 2x1 plus 1x2 plus 4x3?
Machine hours po.
Complete the sentence. Just like what I did here.
Total
If I add up
machine total of the machine hours usage for all the products.
Total machine hours usage in producing all products. Tama?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, in producing all 3 products. Okay, that's modeling. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng modeling. You get the numbers, okay? Itong mga numbers na to, 1 hour of machine time for every unit of product 2, 4 hours of machine time for every unit of product 2, 2 hours. This one, and this one are called parameters. Okay, parameters yan. Parameters of the model. Parang constants ng model. Okay? And you put the parameters and the decision variables in a relationship together, okay? You will have mathematical expressions. And then, look at the left side of your screen, you have the second assumption, which is additivity. Okay? Additivity. Ito yun. The sum of the parts will give you the total. Yun lang ibig sabihin ng additivity assumption. Okay? The sum of the parts will give you the total. Okay? So now, once you get the total machine hours usage in producing all 3 products, we now go to the previous slide, which is the constraint. What is the constraint or what is the limitation? Okay? Your resource, every resource will have a limitation. And what is the limitation of this resource? Itong machine na to. Take note that the left side is measured in terms of machine hours. So therefore, your right side of your inequality should also be in terms of machine hours. So how many machine hours are available in a day? Kasi total machine hours usage in a day to eh. In producing all 3 products. Okay? So what is your limitation? What is your constraint?
16
Ano
hours
dapat
po.
ilagay ko dito sa right side?
Equal to 16 hours po.
Equal to 16.
16.
Okay, 16 hours. Okay? So now, if you equate it, okay, ito, listen carefully. If you equate it, and then you solve it later, then you're telling the solver to make sure that kapag nag-decide siya on the value of x1, x2, and x3, ito, no? Tatlong decisions mo. Dapat mag-assign siya ng values such that yung sum ng tatlo will be equal to 16. Eksakto. Okay? Pero in LP model formulation, we do not want to be restrictive. Okay? We do not want to restrict the possible choices kasi this is another constraint, yung equality. Pag in-equal mo yan, mas malilimit yung mga possible values ng x1, x2, and x3. Kasi kailangan mag-assign ka ng values that will make the equation equal to 16. So what we do, if we have resource constraints like this one, machine, no, may constraint tayo, is instead of putting equal to, we put less than or equal to allow for the possibility of assigning values to x1, x2, and x3 that would not consume all the 16 hours. Okay? And there's logic to it. Kasi sabi ko nga kanina, we're assuming here that setup time from one product to the next is 0. Okay? So at least if we allow it to be less than or equal to 16, then possible na ma-account natin yung setup time doon. Okay? Hindi natin uubusin yung 16 hours sa pag-produce. Makakapag-allot tayo ng certain number of hours for the setup time, no, which we will call the slack later on. Okay? And another thing here is, if we put less than or equal to 16, okay din siya kasi possible na ang demand mo, remember, you are deciding how many units to produce. And hindi lang yan basta-basta decision. You have to base your decision on what the demand is. Correct? If your demand, extreme ha, if wala kang demand for the day, you think you will produce a lot? You will decide to produce a lot of each of the products? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Walang bibili, walang demand. Di ba? Tendency is, if you want to stock up, you will produce a little, but you will not produce a lot such that i-equate mo to. Kasi pag in-equate mo yan, you're forcing the solution to come up with a production. Nakuha nyo? Pag equal to 16 yan, para masatisfy ito, kailangan mo mag-produce. Pero paano pag wala kang demand at ayaw mo mag-produce? Nawala yung option na yun. Diba? You can't have that option anymore simply because your constraint is restricted to use up all the 16 hours. Kasi inequal mo eh. Pero kapag ginawa mong less than or equal to yung constraint mo, then take note, if I produce 0 of x1, 0 of x2, and 0 of x3, what would the left side be equal to? The left side.
0 po.
0. Is 0 less than 16?
Yes po.
Yes. So therefore, the constraint is satisfied even if you don't have production, correct? Whereas if you put equal to 16, the option to produce nothing is not available. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-produce nothing kasi equal to 16. And that's why we put this normally for resource constraints. Yung less than or equal to for resource constraints. And the purpose is for flexibility. Okay, so I have discussed so far the proportionality and the additivity assumption. Okay, the divisibility assumption is very simple. Okay, it just means that all your decision variables can assume a continuous range of values. Continuous range of values from your n.1 simply means that they can be non-integer. Pwedeng may decimal. So let's say your product is a toothpaste, for example. Number of units of toothpaste 1 to produce. You have 3 different kinds of toothpaste. Okay. Alam natin that toothpaste should be an integer value, correct? Your x1, x2, x3 should be an integer value. But an assumption in linear programming is that all your variables can assume decimal figures. So pag sinolve ko to, dahil may inequality constraint ako, pwedeng ang optimal solution ko will be a decimal value. Okay, so you will now ask the question, sir, hindi practical yan. Hindi practical. Produce 1.2 units of toothpaste, 1. Produce 3.6 units of toothpaste, 2. And then produce 0.5 units of toothpaste, 3. Okay, it satisfies the constraint, pero the values are not practical kasi they're not integers. So the answer is yes. That's why it's an assumption. After formulating the model and solving it, the values that may come out may not be practical. And that's why linear programming is a tool to help you analyze and solve problems. Okay? To analyze, solve problems, and make decisions. It's a tool. So like in any other tool, it serves as a guide for you in making decisions. So chances are, if the model tells you to produce 3.8 toothpaste, baka ang optimal solution niyan would be 4. Okay, if you have to make a decision. It's not always rounding up or rounding down, but it's a guide for you to make a decision. At least alam mo, somewhere there yung value. Alam mo na yung 3.8 will optimize your objective. Okay? Will maximize or minimize your objective. So you make a decision now as a manager based on what LP model has provided to you. So the values, the optimal values that will be provided by your Excel solver is not absolute for the decision maker. It is a guide in making the final decision. So may human element pa rin. Remember, machine element ito eh. Di ba? So you all have to be aware that what you put into the machine is what it will give you. Okay? So kapag nagkamali ka sa pag-input ng isang parameter, okay? Iba na yung sasabihin ng machine. Correct? Iba na yung sasabihin ng model. So treat this as a machine or as a robot, no? It will do exactly what you tell it to do. Okay? So hindi niya ma-detect na may mali ka palang pinasok na parameter. Hindi niya ma-detect na inaccurate pala yung estimations mo. Diba? Hindi niya ma-detect. Gagawin lang niya yung dapat niyang gawin. So in the end, if you are the decision maker, you're the manager, you have to look at the values. Is it logical? Is it practical? Is it feasible for you to implement it? The decision is still yours to make. LP modeling just provides you with a set of values as a tool for you to make that decision. Is that clear? Okay, so it's nothing absolute. So that's divisibility. Okay, and then certainty. Finally, certainty. The assumption of certainty pertains to itong mga parameters na to. Okay, so when you say that product 2 takes 1 hour of machine time to produce, pag-aaralan niyo yan ngayon sa ProMGT2. Okay, kasi magta-time study kayo sa ProMGT2. You will actually determine how much time the machine takes to process a product. And sometimes, and many times, there are variability. Hindi laging 1 yan. Hindi laging 2 hours. Lalo na kapag manual yung process. For example, packaging of the product. Sa problem, pwede ko sabihin, it takes 2 hours to package 100 units of a product. Okay? Pero when you go to the actual system and you observe, makikita mo na there are workers that take only 1.5 hours to package 100 units. And there are other workers that take 2 hours. 2 hours, yes, to package 100 units. And still there are other workers that take 3 hours. You get what I mean? In reality, iba-iba ang tao eh. Iba-iba ang machine. Iba-iba ang machine efficiency, iba-iba ang person efficiency. So therefore, yung parameter na sinasabi natin, number of hours of machine time or labor time per unit of a product could change. Pwedeng variable yan. Okay? And that's why in your ProMGT2, you will study about standardizing the time. Iba-iba yung mga taong gumawa Pero what is the standard time in making a product? What is the expected time in making the product per person? Okay? And that is what you will use in your model. That is the parameter you will use in your model. It doesn't mean that you put there 2 hours, 1 hour, 4 hours, that is fixed. Okay? Doesn't mean that. It could be variable in reality. But when you do the model formulation, the assumptions in LP tells you that you have the assumption of certainty. So ano yung certainty? It assumes that all parameters such as cost, requirements, capacity are known and are certain. Sigurado ka dyan. Hindi magbabago-bago yan. In the same way, itong 16 hours na to, hindi magbabago yan. Okay? Laging 16 hours yung availability ng machine time mo. So this is also a parameter, itong 16. Okay? So those are the assumptions when you formulate LP, and these assumptions kind of limit the practicality sometimes of the solution that will come out of your LP model. And that's why it takes a lot of experience, wisdom in making the final decision. Ang advantage mo lang as a decision maker, if you know linear programming or if you know operations research, is that your decision will be guided and you will be making a scientific decision. Okay? Apart from that, you still have to make a call in deciding how much to produce, like for in this example. Okay, and last point ko, when defining your decision variables, balik lang tayo there has to be an action. For sure, there has to be an action. And your indices have to be defined. Almost 12:30. Your indices have to be defined. Okay, there has to be an action and your indices have to be defined. All right? So, if you define your decision variables at wala kayong nakitang action word or verb, then we define it. Mali yun. Kasi a decision is an action eh. So, kapag wala kang verb, kunyari, sinabi mo lang machine time. Xij is the machine time or Xi is the machine time. Mali yun. That's not a decision. Or if you say Xi is the type of food. Mali yun. Kasi walang action eh. Diba? Anong action ba ang gusto mo? Okay? So, therefore here, number of hours to allocate. Allocate is your verb here. Dito naman, number of ito, amount of food to eat. Yan yung action mo. Diba? Tapos dito, number of units of a product to produce. Yan yung action mo. So there has to be a verb in every decision variable definition. And lastly, let me go back to this one, objective function. Take note that you make decisions subject to constraints, okay? Because you want to optimize a goal. Okay, objective function. Objective function. That's the goal that you want to set. And usually, the goal is expressed as maximize Z or minimize Z, wherein your Z, okay, could be so many things. Give me a measure that you want to maximize or minimize quickly.
Profit, sir.
Profit. Z could be profit, in which case you maximize. What else?
Time.
Okay. Time could be, you want to minimize the time it takes for you to get from point A to point B. Okay. Minimize the time to deliver products to all customers. Pwede. What else? Give me another measure.
Size po. Size.
Size? Size
Yes.
of what?
Parang area.
Area. Okay. So let's say you want to maximize the area used up. Okay. Pwede rin naman minimize the area used up. Depende sa problem. Okay. Area, size. Okay. What else?
Cost.
Cost. Minimize cost. Diba? etc. Could be minimized distance then, etc. Okay, so those are the elements, no? First is you define your decision variable. Next, you define what your z is. Alin ba dyan? Okay, which one? Okay, so after measuring, defining your objective, then of course the objective has to be expressed in terms of a mathematical expression. Lahat yan dapat in terms of a mathematical expression. And after that, you define your constraints. Okay, so I told you last meeting to study example number 1. So quickly lang before we dismiss, you will see here that Farmer Jones must determine how many acres of corn and wheat to plant this year. So dapat when you read the problem, you have to identify what decision has to be made. And sometimes the problem already tells you what decision has to be made kasi nandiyan yung problema. So first sentence pa lang, sinabi na ng problem that the farmer must determine, ito yung kailangan niyang i-decide, how many acres of corn and wheat to plant this year. And therefore, your decision variable is exactly that. The number of acres, okay, of land to allocate for crop I every year. As I've discussed earlier, if you define your decision variable this way per year, it means that when you make a decision for this year, that decision will be the same for next year. So kunyari, yung X1 mo, number of acres allocated to wheat. Okay? So imagine nyo, you have this area of land. And this area of land will be divided into wheat and corn. So your decision is how many area or how many acres of this land that I have will I allocate to planting wheat, and how many will I allocate to planting corn. So now, if you have decided, okay, I will allocate 60 square feet of area to planting wheat, kasi X1 yon, then what does that mean? So X2, for example, is equal to 150. Okay. So when you make these decisions, what do these values mean?
The number of acres for wheat and for corn.
For corn per year, correct? Per year. So if 60 and 150 siya, year 2021, okay? Paano sa 2022? Since the definition is per year, then ibig sabihin, once you have a value for this decision variable, every year yan yung value. Nakuha nyo? Every year yan yung value. So every year you will allocate 60 and 150 to wheat and corn. That is what it means. Now, if I want to make the decision variable, in other words, I can vary the values of these variables from year to year, then what do I have to do? Kung gusto kong iba yung decision ko, yung mga values, 2021, 2022, 2023, what do I have to do?
Add another yung J po.
Subscript. So you can now add Xij, number of acres for crop I to allocate. In year J. Diba? If you want the values to change from year to year, then you add another subscript. Okay? I hope that's understood. So if you read the problem, Z is your total revenue, no? Kasi walang expenses. It's all about, if you look at the problem, it's all about sales. Okay? If you read the second, the third, the fourth line, it's all about sales, no? $3 a bushel, $4 a bushel, it can be sold. So if it's all about sales, then your Z, defining Z will be total revenue. And the revenue, you just follow this discussion. It's very clear and self-explanatory. Your Z, to get your Z equation, it is the revenue generated from wheat plus the revenue generated from corn. Diba? Kung ano yung nabenta mong wheat and corn, yun yung sales mo. So, ito na yung equation. Since $4 per bushel yung wheat and Ilan ba yun? $4 per bushel yung wheat, and then you just use this equation, ano, na your decision is the number of acres, and the output, if you decided X1 acres for wheat, okay, then it will be able to produce 25 bushels per acre of wheat for you. And therefore, you multiply that by your $4. That would give you your revenue, which is 100 times X1. So you just follow this derivation of the objective, okay? And then all the constraints, you will read that in your problem, and then that will be your entire model. So your model will now have an objective function, which is maximize z equals 100 times x1 plus 30 times x2. And you will see that 25, these are all parameters. We assume them to be certain. And then you'll have three constraints, no? The labor, land, and government regulations. Last na to before we leave. The first two constraints, you see less than or equal to, tama? So those two constraints, pakilabel na lang, are called resource constraints. Resources kasi yan eh. Di ba? Labor is a resource. Your available land is a resource. So if you have a resource constraint, the constraint is normally always less than or equal to. Okay? Less than or equal to. Look at the third constraint, government regulations on corn. Sabi sa problem, you have to produce at least 30 bushels of corn. Of corn. Dapat may 30 bushels of corn ka na produce. If it's a regulation, okay, then it is kind of a requirement. Okay? So, constraint number 3 is classified as a demand or a requirement constraint. Sulat nyo na lang ha, demand or requirement constraint. And every time you have a demand or requirement constraint, it is expressed in terms of greater than or equal to inequality. Okay? Ulitin ko, resource constraints that you have in the company, less than or equal to yung constraint. Kapag requirement or demand, okay, whether requirement ng government or requirement ng company, ng customer, it will be a greater than or equal to constraint. And the last constraint, the last set of constraints will always be the non-negativity constraints. So that would now make up your entire LP model. Okay?
Sir,
Yes?
so the three constraints is resource constraints, demand constraints, and non-negativity constraints.
Yes.
Tama po ba?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Correct. And there's a fourth one. We call it an implied constraint. So kunyari ang variable mo is number of days. Kunyari, parang kanina, number of hours to allocate to each subject. Hindi ko na kailangan ilagay sa problem na in a day there are 24 hours. Di ba? So implied na yon. Implied that you need to formulate constraints na less than or equal to 24. Okay? Kasi you only have 24 hours in a day. Or if the variable is number of days in a year, implied na yan na dapat less than or equal to 365. So these are implied constraints. Okay, but they fall under, implied constraints may fall under resource constraints as well.